It seems now more than ever, it is important for employees to feel at home, respected, and appreciated at their place of work. Welcome to the AllVoices Career Growth and Development Podcast. My name is Thomas Ressler, he, him, and his, and I'm a partnerships manager here at AllVoices. And today I'm very excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, LaRissa O'Neal, who is the Director of Learning and Development at Allied Electronics and Automation. LaRissa, thank you so much for being here today and joining me on the podcast. If you want to share a little bit about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns and when you were younger, how exactly did you answer the question of what do you want to be when you grow up?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. So my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I live in Texas. I've been in the learning and development space for somewhere in the 10 to 15 year range. It's a little fuzzy in the early days of my career about what was defined as L&D. And interestingly enough, when I was younger, I had two answers to that because I'm really bad at just picking one thing and sticking with it. I either wanted to be an actress. Actually, it wasn't an either, it was an and. I wanted to be an actress and I wanted to be a teacher. At the time, like learning and development it wasn't even a concept. It didn't exist as an option. But imagine my my joy much later in life when I discovered that I could both perform and present and influence and inspire people in growth opportunities, development opportunities. So really, I mean, when I look at it, I kind of ended up being exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. That's one of my favorite questions to ask because it's just really cool to see how, everyone just has their different path in life and kind of just completely just takes a left or a right, and you never know when it's going to happen. It's just really awesome to see, everyone and what they thought they were going to be when they're younger compared to what they are now. And LaRissa, what defines you as well?
What defines me? I'm a mother. I'm a woman. I'm a wife. I'm a student. I'm a sister and an aunt and a daughter. So, when I think about there's a lot of things that define me personally, and I think that influences how I am defined professionally as well. I'm a enthusiastic presence, and I love to be someone that others feel empowered through. So I'm a nurturer, a nurturer by nature. I'm optimistic and skeptical all at the same time, but I think that makes me someone that will question in a healthy way and challenge in a productive way in order to try and get to the best value. So yeah, I think when I think about what defines me, I'm a lot of things. I'm a dichotomy. I'm never in one place or under one definition for too long because I'm always trying to move forward, to grow and evolve. And I think that in and of itself defines me.
Awesome. Yeah, I believe that's definitely a beautiful perspective to look at life with. And I can definitely appreciate that and try to do something similar in my life as well. And try to keep it interesting and, stand out and make an impact on someone. And how do you think your personal journey up to this point has led you to Allied Electronics and Automation?
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of know exactly how it led me here. So in college, actually, I studied psychology and theater. That's what my undergraduate study was in. Again, I always loved being on stage, that being an actress. I mean, I think I was in my first show when I was 4. So I never lost that passion. As an adult now, that ability to to create to tell a story and to create an experience and to inspire people through what I'm sharing with them has been a cornerstone of my professional career, and what I think has made me as successful as I have in the role that I chosen. Because, to be really successful in L&D, it's not only having passion and being kind of a force, if you will, but it's then how do you provide that and share that with someone else so that they are captivated to learn and they are inspired to grow. And so, when I was early in my career after college, I actually I worked in retail sales, and I learned in those stages of my career that I could be good at things, but that didn't mean that I was fulfilled by them or that I was passionate about them. What I very quickly learned is that the moments of my job that mattered the most to me were when I was pouring into someone else, when I was enabling someone to move up in their career, or I was providing someone with a path for growth, or sharing with them opportunities that maybe they had never known of before. And realizing that was where I was passionate, what I was good at, where I looked forward to coming to work every day, that's what ultimately led me to find as many opportunities as I could to focus there, and to make that a value add within my organization. And I did, and it got me the attention that I wanted from our corporate offices, and they ultimately asked if I wanted to do that full time. And I was like, yes, please. Like, that's everything I want to do all the time, and if I get paid for it, even better. And that's when I stumbled into learning and development, honestly. And over the next several years, it was really kind of learning the tactical part, how to be more effective at the job. I went back to school, got my master's degree in IO Psych so that I could have a bit more formal awareness of how to be really good at the job. Because I'd been doing it for a while, so I kind of had the experience, but I wanted to know that I was using best practice methodologies and proven techniques that would really be impactful. As a result, I ended up at a small startup company. They were just at the point of getting big enough to introduce learning and development into their company. And so they brought me in to do that. And what that gave me the experience and the opportunity to do was to really create an L&D strategy, to really find a way to incorporate growth and people-centric initiatives into an operations business. And that was the last move I made before coming to Allied. And I think the culmination of finding what I was really good at and what I really loved early on, then getting the kind of formal education, which gave me that confidence that I was doing the right things and it wasn't just intuition based, there was some data and fact behind it. Then the experience of actually getting to mold and do all the parts of L&D myself and get that kind of full company exposure, I think is what really gave me all the skill sets that ultimately led to my position at Allied.
Yeah, I feel like, like I was saying earlier, everyone definitely has their different path in life. And especially for you going from theater to, to sales for a little bit, to learning and development, and, a small startup to a larger company like Allied, like I can appreciate all the changes that you've made like throughout your career so far. And I think that's important, especially in a position like yours, to know and help appreciate other employees at the company when it comes to career growth and development, and helping them find their paths in life as well. And how do you measure the success of your career growth and development initiatives and projects?
There's several different things or metrics that are indicative that things are working. I see career growth in and of itself, like people who are moving up in the company or moving laterally even, but taking on roles that perhaps had nothing to do with what they had originally been doing, but because of an opportunity to grow and gain new skill sets, now they can move into different positions. Retention is huge. We see, especially with new starters, any company, like that's kind of your initial struggle. Will the people who have chosen to work for your company stick around? Which is why we've invested a lot of time and effort into really building out that initial experience for new starters, because we know that that upfront investment into those individuals will impact those retention, the likelihood of their retention years to come. As well as just kind of, promotions, engagement into bonus learning opportunities. So, in any training organization, you're going to have your compliance training, stuff you have to do because it's what you need to know in order to do your job. But true learning and growth, in my mind, comes from elective development opportunities. And so when I see people wanting to take part in that or engaging in learning experiences that we have, volunteering, signing up for that, that's a massive indicator of effectiveness, because people are really seeing the value there and wanting to take part in it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I feel like it's so important for your employees to feel supported, and I can definitely feel or, tell that you support them like wholeheartedly. And I also appreciate the fact that you uplift others and help them or support them in a lateral change as well. I think that's so important, especially as someone's trying to, find their place in the world or at the company. Maybe that first position that they started out at isn't the best spot, fit for them. They need to make that lateral change. So I can appreciate you supporting them like that. Absolutely. And how can organizations identify stagnant employees and proactively develop them in the company? So essentially, how do you influence someone to be the best they can for both the company and themselves?
I think this actually ties into the previous question as well. And one metric that I woefully missed is what are our employee engagement scores looking like as well? And that, I think, is an indicator of effectiveness of career and growth opportunities, because that is directly tethered to, are people engaged and they want to stick around and they want to be invested in the business? And then to your most recent question, I think that's also a fantastic way to know, are people feeling invested, or do they feel like they're stuck and that there's nothing at the company for them? And so, we utilize feedback mechanisms to identify, where do we have those gaps? Where do we have teams that aren't feeling invested in? And we've taken that feedback and targeted specific teams in order to really pour in to areas of the business where they are feeling more stagnant than others, because it's that we all rise together sort of philosophy. So it's great if some teams are feeling okay and some individuals are feeling like they have opportunity, but if there are others that don't, then one of the things that I feel is a responsibility in my role is, how can I remove a barrier of execution? For instance, how can I give them a cleaner, easier, more efficient, more effective path to development opportunities? How can I make that experience better for them so that it's something that they want to invest in? Because, I can throw dozens upon dozens of L&D initiatives, career growth opportunities at people, but if it's not something that they want, or if it's cumbersome to take advantage of, or if there's too many steps that they have to go through, then there's zero value in it. And so by hearing from the people, by spending time, I'm a big proponent of that boots on the ground philosophy. And, in a virtual world, it's definitely been a bit more of a challenge, but there's, it's hosting focus groups. It's, connecting with leaders of different teams. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? You're closer to it than I am. And then taking that as valuable data and figuring out, how can we now provide those innovative, fun experiences that create opportunities. And it's also investing in leadership development, because, to enable someone to be the best that they can be, they need to be supported. They need to, feel trust. They need to have that inspired leadership surrounding them in order for them to feel like it's okay for me to step out of my comfort zone and try this, or invest myself in this, to take this on. And so, I think leadership development is another critical piece of how to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like helping people find out exactly what they like to do and, maybe help them make that lateral switch like we were talking about earlier can have a powerful impact on both their personal and professional lives as well.
Mm.
Like if the employees are happy with the company, then, or the company as a whole, then the company is going to function more effectively, of course,
Absolutely.
And I like that, the idea of kind of just taking a step back and really asking how someone is doing and helping them feel supported as well. And then my next question is also related to what you were talking about at the start of that answer, which is feedback. So how do you see employee feedback management as an important tool to identify whether employees are happy in their department, want to grow within their department, or are unhappy and may need a lateral change?
If feedback is collected in a way where employees feel safe and they feel they believe that action is going to be taken, then they will be honest in what they say. And so that in and of itself, I think, is perhaps the most valuable tool we have to really gaining those insights of who's happy, who's not, who needs to change, who, just needs somebody to check in on them, but is very happy, otherwise is fine where they are. There's only so much that you can interpret based on what you observe of somebody else, or even from conversations. I do think that, that is another form of feedback, though, of, what an employee is telling you. But I also think that a lot of people feel like they have to have a mask on, or, a barrier in place in order to kind of feel safe in the workplace. And so they may not be honest. And so feedback, a feedback tool gives that mechanism, that vehicle for employees to really say how they're feeling. And then it's up to us as leaders in the organization to actually do something with it. Because if we don't, then we lose the trust, and then employees stop being honest in what they're saying. So it creates this self-perpetuating cycle of, now we're no longer getting the valuable feedback that we need. So, I think there's a lot of that ownership on both sides. And if one side drops the ball, then the value of the feedback really falters.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I personally believe that employee feedback is, an incredibly important tool for any company. That's why I'm with the company that I'm at right now, and as well. I mean, it's an important tool to utilize so that employees can essentially become the best version of themselves, and know they have an open line of communication, and that someone is going to make an actionable change on the other side is really important as well.
Absolutely.
And so, on the same idea of trust, how does building trust amongst employees relate to growth at Allied Electronics and automation?
Well, first off, trust is one of the 3 core pillars of our leadership framework. It's at the core of how we expect leaders to show up every day, because if they are showing up and creating an environment where people trust that they're going to be given feedback, that they have a space where they can be honest about their experiences, then that's really the only way that we can move forward. But at the same, the other side of that is the employees are the ones that are living it every single day. And so if leaders really want to know what's going on in the business, we can either guess and, sit around and use conjecture all day of what we think is going on, or why one particular team is struggling versus another. But the ones who really know, that are living it, that are experiencing it, are the individual employees. And so building that trust that I was talking about previously, and creating that safe space where they trust that there's not going to be retaliation, that what they share is going to be received in a healthy manner, and that there's going to be that action taken, like you said. Like that's the real gold dust, as my boss would say. That's really where you get those golden nuggets of information that you just can't get in any other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if trust is one of those 3 pillars that you were talking about, what are the other 2 pillars as well, just out of curiosity?
Passion and humility. So as a leader, we expect that our leaders create a trusting environment, that they bring passion, and that they inspire others, and that they're humble leaders. And, they create that space where mistakes are part of the learning experience, and leaders don't have all the answers, and they're okay acknowledging that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're leading me perfectly into my questions here. And then, what are some common mistakes do you see companies making in their career development and growth strategies?
Well, I'd say the biggest one is not having one. And you have to have something in place that people can see. And like I said, earlier, like that you've eliminated as many barriers of execution to, so people understand, like, how can I grow? How can I develop? But then also not integrating learning and development and career growth into other facets of the business. So essentially not creating that learning environment. I have a small team. Most learning and development departments tend to be rather small.
Mm-hmm.
In order for any company, mine included, to really be a learning and development company, it's because we have to have leaders who are those humble leaders, and are those passionate leaders who say, it's okay that you made a mistake. Let's learn from it. Like, what is it that we can take from it to use next time? And what is it that we can take from it and remember, let's never do that again? And that's the real impactful learning. I can't take any credit for that. My team can't take any credit for that. That's what has to infiltrate. And so what's a common mistake? Thinking that all learning and development comes from the learning and development team, or thinking that training is going to fix everything. Like, don't get me wrong, I love job security. I've got mouths to feed, but not every problem can be fixed because we throw a training course at it. Sometimes it's taking that look at, what are those root causes? What are those problems that our employees are saying that we maybe haven't listened to? Or, what are the experiences that our leaders are creating that are just working against all the other pieces of the business? And that's where I talked about, like, learning and development has got to be, aligned in lockstep with what's going on in HR, how compensation and benefits within a company are, looked at and created, how we consider leadership advancement. All of that should have a flavor. Diversity and inclusion, all of that should be tied into L&D. And if you try and silo L&D or career development as just something that we sometimes do with a certain group of people, it'll never be integrated into the business, and it'll never be as impactful as it could be.
Yeah, that's definitely some powerful insight there, LaRissa. It almost seems like common mistake is to think that mistakes won't happen,
Yeah.
It's almost like it's how you act upon that mistake, which is important.
Absolutely.
And as we're coming up on time here, is there anything else you'd like to share that I didn't ask you, or 1 to 2, key insights you hope that listeners bring with them after listening to our podcast?
I guess the first one is when I think about, my journey to get to where I am today. It came from a lot of being willing to pivot, but also always seeking opportunities of where I truly felt fulfilled and what I was passionate about. And I've kind of always stuck to a philosophy of if it terrified me just a little and it excited me just a little, then it was probably the right decision. And so, I would say that's the first thing is seek those experiences, because when you're in a moment where it's terrifying you just a little, but it's also really exciting what you're doing, then you've probably found something that is feeding your soul that you are really passionate about. And that's the universe's way of telling you that you're on the right track. And the other thing I think is around that, stay curious. Learning can come from anywhere. Like I said, like it's a mistake to think that learning and development is like a siloed piece of a puzzle. It should be a nuance across everything. And the same thing for the individual. Like you can learn from interactions that you have with other people in your organization, from, podcasts, from books, from LinkedIn posts. Like learning comes in so many different forms, and we live in an age now where we have so much access to so many things that, I would say stay curious and always seek those opportunities to learn and grow. That's what keeps you nimble. It keeps you young, and it makes you a lot of fun at parties because you're full of information that you can just throw out there at any time.
Oh yeah, there you go. I feel like, especially with that first insight there, like I feel like that was the same thing with me when I was starting this podcast originally. Like it was terrifying at first, but I have a great time interviewing, amazing leaders like yourself, LaRissa. So thank you very much for your insight today. And I really appreciate your mindset, and know others do as well that are listening. So thank you very much for being on the AllVoices Career Growth and Development podcast this afternoon. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. So did I.
Awesome. And if our viewers want to reach out and follow exactly what you're doing, is the best place to find you on LinkedIn or?
It is. Yep. You can see all the amazing things that are happening within my department, within the company, and our global organization as well.
Excellent. Perfect. So everyone go follow her on LinkedIn. And again, I appreciate your time. And of course, as a reminder for folks that are listening, we really believe in employee and employers being seen, heard, and understood, and know it's a requirement for the company to succeed. So have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone. Thank you.